Hi, I'm Laura Chaddock-Heyman. I'm going to tell you today about how aerobic fitness and physical activity relate to the brain in children. And so this topic has important real-world implications as physical inactivity increases, which relates not only to physical health, but cognitive health, as I'm going to talk about today. So schools are contributing to this physical inactivity and increase in sedentary behaviors by reducing or eliminating physical activity opportunities during the school day. But in fact, the sneak peek of the work that I'm going to tell you about today suggests that higher levels of aerobic fitness and participation in physical activity actually boost the brain and cognition. A lot of work has shown that higher fit children outperform their lower fit peers on tests of cognition or thinking, including attention or memory. And our lab basically looks at the neural mechanisms underlying these differences in cognition. And we are one of the first to use magnetic resonance imaging techniques to look at the size or the structure of the brain, as well as the function of the brain or how blood moves through the brain. So today I'm going to give you a sneak peek of our work. Let's define aerobic fitness, or higher fit and lower fit children. So we use the gold standard of fitness to classify children into higher fit and lower fit in terms of a VO2 max protocol, in which these children walk and run on a treadmill at increasing incline, and we can measure the gas exchange and the oxygen and CO2 and determine their VO2 max, or their aerobic peak. And so when I discuss higher fit and lower fit children, which you're going to hear throughout this lecture, I'm classifying the children as higher fit in terms of greater than 70th percentile VO2, or lower fit as less than the 30th percentile VO2. So we're looking at the extreme spectrums of aerobic fitness. And so throughout this lecture, you're going to hear me basically compare higher fit children who are very high fit to lower fit children who are at the lower end of the fitness extreme. So I'm going to start with telling you about aerobic fitness and brain structure in one key area called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is an area of the brain that's involved in learning and memory, and animal models have shown that wheel running in rodents actually increases the structural integrity of this hippocampal area that's important for learning and memory, such that there's the growth and the birth of new neurons, new synapses, new vasculature or blood vessels, as well as the increase in the production of these brain chemicals that are important for the growth, survival, and repair of brain cells. And in older adults, aerobic fitness and physical activity also play an important role in hippocampal volume or size, such that older adults with increased aerobic fitness levels have larger hippocampal volumes, and older adults who participate in physical activity in terms of walking 3 times a week actually can increase the size of their hippocampus. And we have recently extended this association to pre-adolescent children, or 9 and 10-year-old children, such that higher fit 9 and 10-year-olds have larger volumes of the hippocampus coupled with superior memory skills. So that's one little sneak peek of one element of our research. Another that we looked at is, does exercise or does aerobic fitness impact other areas of the brain besides the hippocampus? So we looked at the basal ganglia as well, which is another subcortical region of your brain that can be subdivided into 2 areas: the dorsal striatum, or the dorsal basal ganglia, and the ventral basal ganglia. So we call them the dorsal and the ventral basal ganglia. And they have different functions. The dorsal striatum is more involved in what we call cognitive control, which is this umbrella term of cognitive skills or thinking abilities that include attention, inhibiting distractions, multitasking, executing learned behaviors, versus the ventral striatum's more involved in motivation and reward. And interestingly, we found that children with higher aerobic fitness levels showed larger volumes in the dorsal striatum, but there were no fitness differences in the ventral striatum. And these fitness differences in the volume of the dorsal striatum were coupled with higher fit children showing a superior performance on a task of attention and inhibiting distractions. So we extend our research to show that aerobic fitness is not only important in terms of the size of the hippocampus, but also one subregion of the basal ganglia called the dorsal striatum. And so to extend past this a little bit more, we looked at not only whether fitness can impact the volume of subcortical areas of the brain, but what about cortical areas of the brain? So we have 4 lobes of the brain. We call them the frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital lobes. And we looked at the structure in specific subsections of each of those areas in higher fit and lower fit children. And again, as we would expect from the previous work I just mentioned, higher fit children and lower fit children did differ in some areas of the frontal, temporal, and occipital cortex. And what's really cool is that these differences in cortical brain structure related to better mathematics achievement in the classroom. And so together, this research basically suggests that aerobic fitness impacts the structure of the brain during development. And so we can not only look at structure of what we call gray matter areas of the brain, which I just described, but we can also look at the structure of white matter in the brain. So white matter tracts are axons that connect all these gray matter areas in the brain and integrate them into structural networks that assist in the communication of signals between the gray matter areas. And so we can look at the structure of white matter by looking at how water diffuses in and out of the white matter tracts. If water diffuses freely in and out of the tracts, we would suggest that this tract is not very structurally compact or fibrous, whereas if the water doesn't diffuse in and out of the tract, there's a lot of structural compact fibers with high integrity that allow these signals to travel faster, given that the water basically has to travel parallel rather than in and out some of these pores. And so again, to complement our neat gray matter structural findings, we find that higher fit children do have greater structural integrity of their white matter. So this would suggest that perhaps signals travel more speedily along these white matter tracts and these white matter axons, which may help these higher fit children outperform their lower fit peers in terms of many of these tasks of attention and memory and inhibition. And so we can also think about the function of the brain. As you might expect, given the very distinct differences in higher fit children and lower fit children in terms of the structure of their brain, the function of the brain or the blood flow of the brain also differs in higher fit and lower fit children, such that higher fit children and lower fit children have very different amounts of blood flow while they're performing some of these tasks of thinking and reasoning. And again, the higher fit children outperform their lower fit peers on the tasks as we're watching the blood move. And so this suggests again that there are fitness differences not only in the structure of the brain, but also the function or how blood moves through the brain. There are a lot of changes during development, increases and decreases in the size of the brain, and basically blood can increase and decrease as a function of very specific cognitive tasks. And we have defined brain structure increases or decreases as how it parallels cognitive performance. So we have found that higher levels of fitness relate to superior attention, superior memory, and because we have found that these superior cognitive skills relate to larger brain volumes in the hippocampus and specific regions of the basal ganglia, like the dorsal striatum, we basically have used these links to suggest that increased structure is related to increased function. A kind of real-world cool example that we tried was to look at how aerobic fitness impacts street crossing in our virtual reality street crossing simulator at ISL, a building on campus, our Illinois Simulator Laboratory. And so children, higher fit and lower fit children, basically tried to navigate trafficked roads, and they walked on a manual treadmill, and they were actually able to propel their own movements by walking on this manual treadmill, and they could walk through the virtual world and try to cross the street successfully. And given that street crossing is a very dangerous multitasking challenge in the real world, finding ways for children to improve their multitasking street crossing skills has important real world implications. And so the children loved it because they got to basically walk through this virtual world, and they felt like they were going through a video game. And so the children, they crossed while they were either walking undistracted, while they were talking on a hands-free phone, or while they were listening to an iPod. And it's very neat that the higher fit children were able to walk across the street successfully, regardless of the multitasking challenge, but the lower fit children actually showed a greater decrement when they were on the phone. And so this even suggests that higher fit children may even be better multitasker, street crossers, compared to their lower fit peers, such that they outperformed the lower fit peers even on a real world task of multitasking. And so together, this is just a very short sneak peek of my work, but it basically suggests that higher fit and lower fit children differ not only in the size or the structure of their brain in terms of gray matter and white matter, but also the function of their brain, or how blood moves through the brain, which parallels higher fit and lower fit differences in terms of cognitive skills such as attention and memory. And our work, we hope that our work will encourage schools to include more physical activity opportunities during the school day, as well as kids just to lace up their sneakers and get outside and get active so they improve their fitness levels and help prevent some of these metabolic and physical disorders that are also involved in sedentary or lower fit behaviors.